Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. I'm Bishop Darrell Watkins, the senior minister here at Sunshine Cathedral. With me today is Sunshine Cathedral's executive minister. He's also my husband, Bishop Robert Griffin. Sunshine Cathedral's Minister of Connections, the Reverend Dr. Ann Atwell, and Reverend Kevin Tisdall, the Sunshine Minister of Education. Visit sunshinecathedral.org to learn more about our progressive faith community and how you can be part of it, no matter where you live in the world. And if you live in South Florida, be sure to check out the Sunshine Cathedral Center for the Performing Arts, offering entertainment for the LGBTQ+ community to benefit the LGBTQ+ community. If you enjoy the Queer God Squad, please share this or other episodes with your friends, family, and social media communities. At Sunshine Cathedral, we want you to know that you are God's miracle, not God's mistake. This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. In the Bible, is God the top God or the only God? This statement was posted in a subreddit group, Subreddit Bible on Reddit. Quote, there are many references to other gods or sons of God in the Bible. There are also references to God working within a divine council. Does this mean that the Bible is recognizing the other gods of other religions? And do these other gods work within God's divine council? End quote. The responses varied. One responder even asking incredulously, quote, how can anyone even ask this? End quote. Many insisted that the Bible God is a big G God, and the other gods are little g gods, suggesting they are fake gods. Some tried to have it both ways, saying the little g gods were inferior to big G God because only big G God is the real one. Some thought that the little g gods were human charlatans or even demons. What might the Queer God Squad have to say on the subject? Let's find out. Girl.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Here's something.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna trouble you a little bit. Nobody here, but some of you.
Wet your whistle.
There's a lot of names for God, like El Shaddai and Elohim, and there are angels, Michael and Gabriel, Uriel and Raphael. So there's all this El stuff. Well, El was a Canaanite god. And so we've borrowed that. So the God we're talking about, El something, comes from, that's already a god. That's already a name of a god in the area. But so we've already borrowed a god's name. And El in that mythology is sort of like Kronos in Greek mythology. And Kronos has a son, Zeus, who takes over. Well, guess what? El has a son, Yahweh, who takes over. And Yahweh has a wife, Asherah, and so on and so forth. And Yahweh, by the way, is also a thunder god. And so we've borrowed a lot of things anyway. So how can Elohim or El Shaddai be the only God when we got their name from another god anyway? So, and that's not nobody's being shady or sneaky about that. Everyone did that. Jupiter is Zeus. The Romans just took the story, reappropriated it, gave it a new name. Everyone did that. Everyone did that. Some people have compared Mary to Isis, the Egyptian goddess Isis. And so, yeah, I mean, it's what they did. So, so one, there's that. Two, there are divine councils. And where in the 82nd Psalm, where God addresses the council of gods and says, addresses them and just mentions that I'm talking to the council of gods. There is some sort of divine council, obviously, in the book of Job that Hasatan, the accuser, has the keys to, just walks right in. It has the punch code. Why is he in there? Must be part of the council, or at least, has permission to be there. And so there's that. So yeah, there are all these gods, and sometimes you're in trouble for flirting with the other gods. Because it's not just that there's one God, there's our God. And if you're a part of our group, you have to worship our God. If you worship the other gods, that's almost treasonous. You're being unfaithful to your people, unfaithful to your culture, unfaithful to your history, unfaithful to your country. And so, yes, if you're in our tribe, you worship our God. You'll have no other gods before me. Because there are some to have, but I'm not having it. I'm not putting up with it. So before God becomes the universal God, and we get that about in the creation story, that God is the God of creation and the God of the world and the God of everything. Before God is that God, God is the tribal God that we find in Exodus. That story is older than the creation story. And so we have the God who is our God, and we can't cheat on our God because there are other gods to cheat with. And you'll notice that, in the various battles between the Hebrew prophets and the priests of the other gods, Baal's guys can do almost everything that Elijah can do. And when Moses is, let my people go, Pharaoh's priests can do almost everything that Moses and Aaron can do. These powers, these miracles, these deities, they're ubiquitous. And so is God the only God, or is God the only God for us, or is God the toughest of all gods, the best of all gods? Yes, yes, and yes. Depending on who's writing, depending on what time it is, and depending on, so it's all true. Again, remember, the Bible is not univocal. The Bible is not a thing. The Bible isn't God saying one thing. It isn't even one human author saying one thing. It is a library. And just like you can find every story imaginable in your local library, same thing with this library. It says a lot of things. It contains a lot of things because there are different authors, different times, different social locations, different languages. And so all of that plays into it. So when you say the Bible said, no, it doesn't. Somebody said, and what they said wound up in the Bible. So yeah, was God the best? Was God the only? Was God the... Yes, 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 yes.
Right. And I think if somebody is willing to take the Bible and really tear it apart like that, look at it for what it is. It's a great storybook. And if you sit down and you read...
I love the story.
Exactly. If you read Genesis.
Absolutely.
And then sit with that for a while, and not what anybody tells you, but just read it.
Yeah.
Read it for yourself and get what you're going to glean from it. And then read Exodus and just realize that they are different stories, and they're going to have different characters. There's going to be different people. There's going to be different gods. You can gain so much from just opening yourself to that way of thinking, that way of reading.
Different stories written for different generations,
Yes.
different people. There's a reason that almost every single book in the Bible was written. You had books of laws and rules that told you what to eat and what not to eat. It wasn't because they were afraid of some god destroying them. It was afraid that if you ate
Salmonella
in the desert, you'd be dead.
That's it.
So glean what you can,
Right.
and understand that each of the stories.
Yes.
I think I mentioned at this table before that I cringed when a friend of mine once said the myths. Each of the myths that are in the Bible have a reason that they were written to a people that they were written. So relax and enjoy the idea that there may be a bunch of gods out there, because in many societies, in many belief groups, there are. And
I've had different gods. I called them all God.
Right.
But I've had many gods over the, and the God of my understanding today looks nothing like what I was calling God when I was a kid.
I'm going to say the same thing.
And so I have destroyed many idols and moved on to different gods in my life. And hopefully we all do.
Yeah.
And I think whether it's a big G or a little g, if you don't know the story, it doesn't make a difference.
Hello.
And unless you get in there and really grapple with what the myths are about and how they line up with this story and this story and this story, it doesn't matter, because you're just hearing background noise of what everyone else has said that the Bible says.
Right.
Right.
And until you take the time to understand the G's, the goodness ain't going to come out of it for you.
Yep.
But I do want to make this point about whatever God, the king God, the queen God, the God among many gods, the only God, the jealous God, all the God, whatever God is in your imagination, or whatever story about God you favor. In the name and service of one or some of those gods, we have some of the best architecture in the history of the world.
Oh, goodness.
In the name and in the service of one or more of those gods, we have some of the most beautiful music ever written. In the name of and in the service of one or some of those gods, we have beautiful art.
Yes.
So yeah, we can talk about the terrible things that have been done, colonization and separation and wars and the Crusades and the witch hunts, and yes, bad. But also, in the name of it, in the service of these various gods, we have culture, we have architecture, we have art, we have music. We I think the first hospice was religious. I think the first hospice, it may have even been Catholic, I don't know. But certainly it's hospitals, orphanages, clinics, nursing homes, a lot of social services, immigration services, that religion has provided a lot of relief, sometimes from the suffering it caused, but a lot of relief, but also just a lot of beauty. And a lot. So if you don't believe it's all true, and if you don't believe it's all factual, and if you don't take it all literally, what's the point? Because the Vatican is amazing, and it wouldn't have existed without this mythology that somebody took seriously enough to draw paintings of.
Right.
And so, why do you do it? Well, it's not so that we can literalize the myths, so that we can enjoy the myths and play with the myths, and also appreciate what has come out of those things. That even the not so ancient, but the temple in Salt Lake City, very grand. Well, nobody was building it for any other reason, though.
Hello.
You weren't getting it just because somebody needed a new supermarket. I mean, there's some, like it's out of the awe and reverence. And glory that people make these structures. And you can say, well, that's a waste of money. Or I don't care about all that. I know that we appreciate this culture and this beauty and this art, and it came out of devotion to these gods. So yeah, I'm not going to argue about which is the real God or if there even is a God. I know that these stories about gods have motivated people through the centuries to do things that are blessing our lives to this day.
Amen.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Well, that's today with the Queer God Squad. We want to thank you for joining us. We're here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's leading progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together.
We all are in this together. Remember that.
You are God's miracle, not God's mistake.
Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Goodbye.
Bye.